Earn by hour or pay by hour. This is definitely some words that a lot of us gig workers are looking out for and listening to. But in my opinion, this is actually something I'm highly concerned about, and we're going to talk about it. Last week on the Dash with Ash, I talked to you lovelies about gig work and if it's actually sustainable in 2024 and why I think it is. But now, I'm going to talk to you about this whole earn by hour or pay by hour and why I think this, at least in my books, is 100% not sustainable. So let me start off with story time. My story is pretty simple. Besides gig work and being self-employed, I have always earned by hour. I have never been a salary-based employee to any company. I have always been an hourly-based employee to any company I worked for. And working per hour, as long as I'm on the clock, has been super beneficial. I get paid not just per hour that I'm there, but the minutes based on my hourly pay divided by the minutes. And if I'm past overtime, depending on the employer that I worked for, it would give me actually time and a half. So it was always a win-win for me to get paid by hour. So why am I turning around now as a gig worker and saying that I'm not interested in pay per hour? Well, there's quite a few pointers. First of all, when you're paid by hour, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident that's when employers give you dedicated hours that you have to be there for. There's always a catch-22 when something like this happens. So if you're going to pay me per hour from 1 to 9 p.m., I got to be there from 1 to 9 p.m. So tell me why these gig companies would let us off the hook to work whatever hours that we want, and all of a sudden pay us anywhere from what I've heard, $16 per hour up to $29 per hour. But previously, they had absolutely no issues paying us $2.50 per order and follow their own terms. I understand that a lot of this per hour talk came involved because of either state regulations or government regulations saying that you have to pay people better. But have you ever heard of the expression, don't trust the government? Well, I'm not saying that we don't trust the government. I'm saying I'm not going to trust two kings of the castle going against me being the little guy. So I don't trust these companies. But now I'm supposed to trust these companies merged with the government. And you're going to tell me there's no catch-22? That all they have to do is give me earnings per hour based on my active hours that I'm doing deliveries? Why does that sound very suspicious to me? The way I see things is if the government wants these gig companies to put specific money up front, then the companies are going to ask for something in return. Like the fact that they could make us obliged to even more stricter contracts, obliging by their schedules that are no longer convenient to us. The best part about being a gig worker for me is if I want to take an order before I go to a friend's house, I can do that. If I want to take the order after coming back from my friend's house, I can do it. And then I can just simply click off the app at any given time. I can't tell you how many times I just go out for about an hour and a half and 2 hours, and then I come home. But if a per hour system is in place, just because they have not tied us down to a schedule now, doesn't mean that they won't later. I'll put it to you this way in the version of a question, and you can answer it down below in the comments. When have these gig companies ever put us first? Truthfully. And that's not me trying to be negative as a gig worker that sometimes doesn't like gig work. It's nothing to do with that. But these gig companies we have established just want to be there to make their money, and they don't care. We're just a number system to them. So, since when would they turn around and say, you know what, Ash? I want to stop paying you $2.50. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. $2.50 for picking up an order. And instead, because of your active time online, I'm going to pay you $19 per hour, active doing deliveries, of course, not just sitting there in the car with the engine going, and reward you instead. Even if the government forces these companies to do that, there is no way that they would do that scot-free. Of course, they're going to implement it right away because the government says you have to. But follow behind it is going to be something additional that we have just not seen yet. I am really not surprised that I have seen numerous videos on YouTube talking about the earn by hour not being worth it. And that's because even though sometimes some things act or seem like an added bonus for us, it's truly only an added bonus for somebody else. And we all know who the somebody else is that I'm referring to in this podcast. It's these gig companies. So when it comes down to earn by hour, this is not something that I'm favoring in my market. But I'll say this. Being somebody that lives in Quebec, I will say Quebec has always followed their own rules. And even if it came to every single province here in Canada, Quebec would probably be the last one to jump on the wagon. If you are somebody that wants the earn by time, I can respect that too. There is much more of a safety net having earn by time and knowing that you're going to be actively doing some deliveries and actively receiving money per hour versus nothing at all. And I can understand how sometimes going an hour and a half without getting a single accepted order can be frustrating versus if you accept orders and you get paid per hour, how that can feel more beneficial. I get it. And if I was somebody in a stuck situation, I would go for it too. But again, I am very highly concerned that these gig companies are going to keep on doing whatever they want. And when it comes down to it, whatever they're going to want to do is not always a beneficial thing for us. Now, since I am somebody that does not have earn by time here in Quebec, I would love for you to comment below. Does earn by time truly make you more money as a gig worker? And if these companies were to implement a schedule, would you still do an earn by time slot? Or would you consider giving up gig work and pursuing something else with a different employer? Since I'm not in a province that has it activated, I am curious to know the thought process on this topic when it comes to other people experiencing it. But for me, I think I'm going to opt out of it for sure, because I'm too scared about being tied down, and since I've had the freedom I don't have to be, I'm actually okay with losing a little bit of money as long as I get to maintain that sense of freedom. At the end of the day, earn by time, earn by dollar, earn by tip, it don't matter. Whatever works for you, works for you. Luckily right now, there's no restrictions in place that make it that it's mandatory to do a lot of these things that these gig companies are offering. Because before you ever tie down yourself to these companies, I would think twice about the repercussions. Nobody needs to be tied down in a specific 8-hour schedule doing food delivery services if people are not ordering off these apps. If you're gonna do earn by time, it should be earn by time regardless because you're on the apps and you need to make some money. But I could also understand that there's just so many people that would be probably at home with the apps on trying to earn $1. So at the end of the day, we're going to have to do what's right for us, whether it's earned by time or going out and earning by dollar. There's no wrong answer. It's just strictly based on what's best for you. Next week on The Dash with Ash, I'm going to be speaking to you, lovelies, all about future-proofing and if that's even possible for gig workers. I'll catch you, lovelies, in the next episode.